Hello and welcome to the UUOP News Network, a weekly news bulletin featuring all the latest from Universal Studios. This news bulletin is produced in cooperation with the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast as part of the UUOP network. I'm your host Jeremy, and this week we have a brief update on 2 Universal attractions and then a truckload of Halloween Horror Night news at Universal Studios, Florida. So let's not waste any time and let's jump right in. First up, we have news about there being no news from Revenge of the Mummy, which went down in January for a lengthy refurbishment. The attraction was scheduled to officially reopen in late summer, and the deadline for that is quickly approaching, or in some people's opinions, has already passed. The attraction recently began having team member previews, but reportedly experienced some lengthy downtime during the preview period. Additionally, Universal had a small oops moment as their app advertised that the attraction would be opening in the morning at 9 a.m. But much to fans' disappointment, the attraction did not open. Universal publicly took to Twitter and apologized for this slight inconvenience and for the disappointment that it would cause, and that the attraction was still closed for scheduled maintenance. This scheduled maintenance and oops period has caused another attraction's refurbishment to be pushed back, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which was scheduled to begin refurbishment on August 21st. There's no official word on when that attraction will begin its refurbishment. Over in City Walk, the landscape replacement continued this week out in front of Hard Rock Cafe and is looking absolutely beautiful. Part of the pavement between Finnegan's and the Blues Brothers stage show has reopened this week, but the other half of it still remains under refurbishment. This week, construction continued for Halloween Horror Nights and the numerous scare zones throughout the park. In the Horrors of Halloween scare zone, the zone has had many additions added to the lighting truss and has officially gotten the neon HHN sign added. Additionally, we have seen some lighting effects during the evening hours getting tested out, and they appear to resemble vines of sorts. Then over in the Scarecrow Cursed Soil scare zone, we've seen more theming get added and have seen the barn structure begin to take shape. We've also seen a tractor and several scarecrows and individual sets go up in this area. The signage for Ghoulish went up earlier this week, and in an interesting twist, we noticed that the sign resembles that of a record. And not only that, on the sign, it shows side 1 and side 2. Side 1 shows being at 9 and 10 p.m., and side 2 being at 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. Could this mean that we are getting 2 separate Lagoon shows this year? This has caused much speculation, but nothing has been confirmed. This week we also discovered that the rumors of the Red Coconut Club becoming the Dead Coconut Club have been confirmed, as signage has appeared outside of the club advertising this new HHN experience for City Walk. We saw the arrival of the signs at the Universal Arches for Halloween Horror Nights. In the center is a red-orange moon with Halloween Horror Nights on it and the dates. Then on the left side are the signs for Universal Monsters, Legends Collide, and Halloween. And on the right side, we have The Weekend and the Horrors of Blumhouse. This week we also saw the arrival of all of the food and beverage menu items around the park for Halloween Horror Nights 31. They are certainly offering a vast variety of foods, drinks, many of which look deliciously appetizing, and we can't wait to try all of them. This week we also saw the arrival of some new HHN merch featuring everyone's favorite slasher, Michael Myers, who will have a house at this year's HHN 31 event. We also saw the official release of the previously leaked HHN house shirt, and it looks absolutely stunning. Finally, we got some inside info from several of our show directors this week and an interview on USA Today giving us some inside info on the houses and the use of 31 in this year's event. Our friends at HHN Mannix were able to provide a brief transcript of each of the houses that they discussed. This is what they had to say. As we turned 31 this year, it gave us a great opportunity to lean into what started it all, the Halloween holiday that is October 31st, Saul said. So we're really leaning into those traditions and tropes of an actual Halloween celebration, the witches and the ghouls and the black cats and the zombies and vampires and the skeletons and the scarecrows, leaning into all those more traditional things but twisting them in our kind of Halloween Horror Nights way to make them more horrific. The number 31 will keep popping up across the park. Saul's recommended Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake, and Bugs Eaten Alive as 2 can't-miss haunted houses. There is no plexiglass in the houses. Bugs Eaten Alive, you're entering into a World's Tech Fair where you're entering Pavilion 31. I think this is the first time we've had a full house just concentrated and focused on bugs, Saul said. And there are a lot of different bugs, Gray added. So even if you're brave with a certain bug, if you don't like roaches, spiders, or certain types of things, oh my goodness. I'm just curious to see how many people can actually finish the house. For Hell Block Horrors, you're going into Cell Block 31. If you go to Hell Block Horror, there are some Easter egg characters from other houses that you will see, he said. Some may not have survived, so I'll throw that little Easter egg in there. I'm not going to go any further on that because it's a treat. In Descendants of Destruction, you're on Platform 31. For Dead Man's Pier, we are bringing back characters from our Scare Zone in 2016, Dead Man's Wharf. Saul said of this year's Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake haunted house, which she called one of the most beautiful scenic houses ever at the park. For the weekend, I think people may think it's because it's based on music, it's not going to be ferocious. But it's going to be very intense, very gory, and very aggressive, so it's going to be great, Gray said. Yes, you are going through recognizable scenic, as in bathrooms and clubs and train stations and hotel hallways, but it's very surrealistic. It leans into the psychological terrors, and it's presented in a way that we haven't presented a house before, where it's musically driven, and even the lights are programmed to interact with the music. So it's almost as if you're walking through a nightmare of a music video. We've never done anything like it before. For Legends Collide, we have a new winner every night because there are 3 monsters fighting, Gray said. There's the Wolfman, Kharis the Mummy, and Count Dracula, and you never know who's going to win at the end. We're switching it up every night, and that's going to be fun. For Chupacabra, we cast a bilingual cast, and we have a bilingual production crew with the cast. Most of the triggers in the house are in Spanish, Saul said. As our story goes, the townspeople are luring tourists into their town so they can sacrifice them to the Chupacabra. So the Chupacabra doesn't kill them, she added. So there are some tourists that may speak a different language than Spanish, but all of our main villagers and all of our lead characters in there are Spanish-speaking and bilingual. Among them is a mask maker whom guests will see right when they walk into the haunted house. She is crafting masks for the villagers to disguise themselves as they are doing these horrific kills, Saul said. Her family has been making these masks for this festival for decades, and it's been passed down for generations. The mask maker will share some of that history and the Chupacabra's story in a separate add-on dining experience at Louis' Italian Restaurant, where she'll engage with guests in character in both English and Spanish. Reservations are required. But that is going to do it for us this week on this news update from the UUOP News Network. Be sure to give us a like and comment and subscribe, and be sure to check out our main podcast, the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast, which can be found anywhere you get your podcasts. Looking to book your next Universal trip? Go check out our friends at Port Key Vacations, run by one of the fabulous hosts of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast, Michelle. Whether it be to Universal Studios or anywhere else in the world, check with her and she will set you up for success on your next vacation. If you want to get involved with UUOP, you can submit a Bow Pick a Bow Bow, our newest listener debate. Stay tuned to the end for instructions on how to get involved with that. Also, be sure to go check out our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Simply search UUO Podcast. You can also learn about and join the Producers Club by emailing uuopproducers@gmail.com. Be sure to go check out our friends over at the Theme Park Duo Podcast for all Universal Studios Hollywood and West Coast theme park related content. And also be sure to go check out our sister podcast, the Rush of Fear Podcast, where they will be covering all things Halloween Horror Nights and horror related. Once again, I want to thank Lee, Tracy, and the gang for allowing me to be a part of the UUOP family and bringing you all this weekly news update. So thank you all again, and be sure to tune in next week on the UUOP News Network.